Yeah, I think this is a very nice institution to have this Frequency Fridays, because frequencies in general is something which the potency of has not been yet understood, and also not yet be technologically fully used. It's nothing new. One of the pioneers of frequencies was Nikola Tesla, and his works was something which actually got me into the whole thing, to study deeper into frequencies, especially his statement that if you want to understand the universe, try to understand it in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. As a physicist, when I started to study physics, 1984, it's already quite a long time ago, I was mainly fascinated by quantum physics. Already before starting to study physics, I think maybe 2-3 years before finishing school, my teachers gave me books on quantum physics, because normal school was quite boring for me. So I had the opportunity already when I was 15, 16 to look at the quantum physics, and also very quickly look at what's called quantum philosophy. And already when I was 18, I contacted a man who was very famous in Germany at that time. His name was Carl Friedrich von Weizsäcker. He was the brother of our president that time, but he was one of the greatest physicists during the time when quantum physics was discovered. So he was quite old already. So I started to communicate very early with him, and his main work was on quantum philosophy, to understand how the changes in physics affect the human life, our understanding of who we are, and our understanding of what the universe is, and also why we are here. Weizsäcker actually, he wanted to study originally philosophy, but it was Werner Heisenberg who convinced him that it doesn't make sense to study philosophy anymore. You have to first study physics, because the new facts from physics change completely how we see life, how we see consciousness, and how we understand what's meaning. So physics as a basis of philosophy. This was my understanding when I was 16. So already that time I decided to study physics. And okay, university was quite boring. One had to go through everything like mechanics and the mathematical basics, which I already knew. But I waited for the moment when quantum physics was on the plan. But I was as disappointed as before, because my professors were teaching quantum physics as if it would be something completely understandable, just something technical, which we have mastered long time ago. But one of the greatest father, I would say one of the grandfathers of quantum physics, he said, if you're not shocked by quantum physics, means you didn't understand it. So my professors were not shocked. So I was very much sure they didn't understand it. So I changed university. I went to, after my pre-examinations, went to Heidelberg Philosophy and continued my studies. And it was there already that I realized that studying science will not answer the questions. It will put a lot of questions, but it will not answer them. So that time I decided I need to go a different way to answer or find answers on these great questions. What is the universe? Where does it come from? Who am I? What is my relationship to this world? And what is the meaning of life? So I understood that time that science needs to be connected to spirituality. And spirituality is a completely different thing. It doesn't mean to go external, to go outside, but it means to go inside. And it's also a kind of a science. So that time I decided to become a monk when I was 21. This was quite adventurous decision. And I spent a lot of time in India for 10 years, went to the Himalayas, and almost altogether 12 years I spent as a monk. And since that time, I had these two fundaments for my life. One was science, especially physics, quantum physics. The other was spirituality and my practical experience in spirituality. So the rest of my life until now, I used to put these two strings together, to combine these two sides. And I believe for our present situation, it's so much important to integrate science and spirituality, because science without spirituality is blind. And spirituality without science is kind of lame. So we need to put them together to have a powerful but also a wise way to deal with this world. And this is what I'm very much convinced about. It's like science dealing with matter, with the body, and spirituality dealing with consciousness, with the deeper psyche. How can one of the other exist with the other? So it's important to put them together. So the question is, and this was always my question, what keeps body and soul together? What keeps matter and spirit together? How do they communicate? How do they talk with each other? And here we are today, Frequency Friday. The language, how consciousness and matter, how body and soul communicate, is frequency. Frequencies is a language which our body understands. Frequencies is a language which our cells understand. But frequency, on the other side, having a spiritual aspect of numbers, representation of information, is also understood by something close to our consciousness and our psyche. To go deeper into this would be not the right place here, but in quantum physics, everything is originally information. But this information informs energy. And the way how information informs energy is by putting energy in a state of a vibration. And the main significant quality and quantity of a vibration is frequency. And this is what we see if we look into very deep into matter. We see frequencies. And if we look very far out into the universe, we do it with frequencies. So it's something which connects microcosmos, microcosmos, microcosmos and macrocosmos, and it connects matter and spirit. So therefore, I got fascinated by what one can do with frequencies and how we can understand matter in terms of frequencies, and also especially then our body, how we can understand our body in terms of frequencies. So this was already in the midst of the 90s. After being a monk for too long time, I started to get back into the society and ask this question: how can I contribute? What can I actually do with the knowledge which I have learned from my science teachers, from university, from Weizsäcker and so on, and the other hand, what I have learned through my spiritual teachers, which were partially from India and partially from Europe. So the first thing I looked into is what does frequencies do in our body? So there are so many different levels. Basically, all the organs, the eyes, the ears, our neural system communicates on the basis of frequencies. So there are many different ranges of frequencies. And I wrote the first book about the importance of frequencies for life, 1997. This book was called The Fields of Life. But that time, I already had a good understanding about the importance of frequencies and how frequencies can also be used for healing in different ways. But there was something very important missing. And like always in my life, the important things, the creative impulses, came by meeting of people. So there was a very important meeting, a person I met, 1998. And this person was a physicist who directly studied physics from Werner Heisenberg. Heisenberg, one of the greatest fathers and inventors of quantum physics. You might know the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It's very important principle in quantum physics. So Burkhard Heim studied physics from Werner Heisenberg, and he, on the basis of quantum physics and Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, he developed a new concept of space-time, which is not four-dimensional, but six-dimensional. So there are two additional dimensions above Einstein's four-dimensional space-time. And he could prove that you need these two additional dimensions if you want to connect quantum physics with theory of relativity. So what are these two dimensions above four-dimensional space-time? We call it information field. Information field means that behind this visible world, there is an invisible field which is below the quantum level, which actually organizes all this, what you can see, which organizes evolution, which organizes the functions in our body, which contains the blueprint of what we are. Of course, this blueprint of what we are, basically the blueprint of our body, of our healthy body, it is there. It's also developing constantly, but it is there. And through the quantum processes, our body is constantly connecting to this deep field of life. Therefore, in my first book, I called it 1997, I called the book The Fields of Life. The matter of life is very important, but behind the matter of life is the fields of life, which is constituted on the level of pure information. So, but the connection between the fields of life and our body is through frequencies which manifest on the electromagnetic level. Frequencies translate between information and matter. That's so important. Today we don't need the translation because we all speak English to some degree, but for our European webinar today, which was in so many languages, we needed at least translation from German to English. So between two systems, you need translation. So frequencies translate from information to matter. Frequencies are a language. So the next important people I met were two people. One is Nuno Nina, and the other is Dr. Karen McMakin from the US. These two extraordinary people, extraordinary medical practitioners and extraordinary researchers, they did a lifelong of practical research about the language of frequencies. So both of them have developed big libraries of the effect of frequencies in the body and the effect of frequencies in our consciousness. More than 144,000 frequencies from Dr. Nuno Nina, and also more than 80,000 frequency combinations from Dr. McMakin. So in the Healy, first we included the 144,000 frequencies from Nuno Nina, which is basically like, you can say, the library by which we translate from one side to the other. But of course, it's not one-to-one. It's not that you have kidney and there's one frequency, or you have liver and there's another frequency, or that there is a certain goal you want to reach and there is a frequency. Like always in nature, there is a spectrum of frequencies. For example, for liver, in our database, in our library, which we call the gold frequencies because they are actually more valuable than gold. We have more than 900 frequencies for the liver, more than 1,000 frequencies for the kidney, because it's a whole spectrum. All the organs are very, very complex. So you cannot say it's one frequency or the other. And sometimes you need new frequencies, which have the resonance for a special organism. So we needed to develop a new technology, not like other frequency devices which use one frequency, or they zap through a big range of frequency, like from 10,000 to 30,000 hertz, like a clock zapper. There are so many devices on the market which use specific frequencies or ranges of frequencies. So we have a completely different approach. And this approach goes deep to the level of information field. So only when I met Burkhard Heim, 1998, and I spent time with him until 2001 when he passed away. So I was very fortunate to meet him in the last 3 years of his life and get the technical understanding about how four-dimensional space is controlled by the information field, and how through quantum processes you can actually get the information down from the fifth and sixth dimension, from the fields of life to our level, three-dimensional space within time. So only after getting this knowledge from Burkhard Heim, this period was up to 2001, as I said already, when Burkhard Heim passed away, I had to promise him that the knowledge which I got from him, which is very sensitive knowledge, that this knowledge I will only use for benefit people in large. He was very sensitive about it because he understood the responsibility of a scientist. He very much understood the responsibility of someone who has knowledge. It's not like nowadays scientists and researchers, they just find something out and say, okay, that's as it is, do with it whatever you like, or earn money with it. The more you know, the more abilities you have, the more responsibility you carry for what will be done with what you have discovered. And Burkhard Heim faced, his two teachers were Werner Heisenberg and Carl Friedrich von Weizsäcker, and it were these two scientists who developed the original knowledge of how to construct a nuclear weapon. So both of them, especially after the Second World War, were very much aware about the responsibility of scientists. Even the discoveries of Burkhard Heim were so sensitive that he was observed in the 50s and 60s by the German and the American Secret Service, because Wernher von Braun, who was this German scientist who developed the Apollo programs to go to the moon, he was in constant contact with Burkhard Heim because he wanted to use his knowledge for developing a new engine to go into outer space based on gravitational waves, which Burkhard Heim has discovered. So I learned all these things, but then 2001, I started to slowly develop technical systems which could communicate to the information field. But it took some years. It took until 2004 until I had the first kind of working device. At that time, I believe 2004, I made the decision, it shall be integrated, it shall be an integrated part of a medical device which can help people with their health. So it was still a long way to go, because I'm not an expert in medical matters, but I quickly had another important person which I met, a lady, older lady already at that time, who has a almost lifelong experience of healing as a healer, and she was very sensitive to whatever I developed in the beginning. I gave to her, and she tested it in her clinic, and at one point she started to be a co-developer. So I always found the right people. It's not that I did this development myself, but it needs a lot of good luck to meet the right people at the right time, to be able to accept the knowledge, to be able to integrate. I see myself to be my own strength is integration, because my mind always connects things, and I think this is very important. So then 2006, the device was ready. And I remember that I was sitting at the, how's it called? The Northern Sea in Germany. It's not an ocean, but it's a sea. And I was sitting on an island in the summer, little holiday with my family. And I was watching the waves. And I had in my mind this idea, the question, what will be the name of the device? And suddenly it came from the sea. The name was Timewaver, to wave beyond time, to communicate by waves with frequencies beyond time. And time is the border between 3 dimensions and 5th and 6th dimensions. Remember the 6th-dimensional model of Boca time? There's 3 dimensions of space, and the 4th dimension is time, and then there's the 5th and 6th dimensions, which is the information field. So time is in between our world and the other world. So you need to cross time. Crossing time is possible by something which is very quick in time, like frequencies. They are very quick in time. They are like elements of time, like photons. Photons are bundles of frequencies, and they move without time through the universe. So it's something very mystical. To deal with time in physics was always fascinated by the philosophy of time, and quantum physics is all about understanding time. So the Timewaver was the first device which then became very successful, first in Germany, then in Europe, and then all over the world. Thousands and thousands of people, doctors, therapists, and clinics work with this device, which has medical CE and which is also registered as a medical device in many other places in the world until now. But it's a big device. It's like, it needs a laptop to function. It's a bit same size like a laptop. And it needs also good training to work with it. And it's mainly used by professionals. So the journey is not over. The next most important person I met on this journey was 2010. 3 years after we had Timewaver already distributed. It was a researcher I have mentioned already, director of many clinics, Nuno Nina from Lisbon. And he was working with frequencies already for years, but he had one problem: how to find the right frequencies for the patient. He was doing it manually because he had the abilities. And he contacted me because he heard from one famous therapist from Norway that we developed a device which could read through the information field which frequencies one needs. So this was a perfect combination. We met in September 2010, and this was, I actually went to Lisbon because in September it's very beautiful there. It's directly at the Atlantic Ocean. So I like to travel there, and we spent a week, and in this week we made the most important decisions of my life. We made the decision to put together all our knowledge, everything which I had developed on the basis of quantum physics, information field technology, Timewaver, and what he had developed, all the therapy protocols, which he has tested with more than 40,000 patients, which come day to day to his clinic with very severe problems. So that time it was a decision of friendship. We didn't talk about business for 2.5 years. I never had such an experience. It was an absolute free exchange of everything what we knew, and we didn't think about making a contract or that at one point it will be a business and one has to talk about money. It was really purely idealistic. I remember 2012 when the device was ready. I was traveling in the Himalaya mountains, 4,000 meter high, and I got a call. Unfortunately, handy is working up there. A mobile phone is working up there. I got a phone call that the device is ready and we can sell it, and but we need a contract with the developers. We never talked about it. So I phoned Nuno Nina, and after 5 minutes we agreed, and we never talked about it again. So this is something which I very appreciate with the people which I met and who contributed to the path that we where we are and to the what we have reached until today, is that most of these people are very idealistic and had a very broad vision, not only of the technology which they have developed or the science they have understood, but how it can benefit the world. So this was 2012. We had the first frequency device ready, which took the frequencies from the information field and directly applied them to the patient through microcurrent, which is modulated through the frequencies. But already in our first meeting in Lisbon, Nuno and me came to the idea and the conclusion that this is not the end, but on the basis of this, we need to develop a small device which everyone can carry along and which is able through the internet to connect to a cloud so that we can supply new frequencies and new frequency protocols to the people wherever they are in a very quick way. So this development took another 7 years. Especially the medical certification was very complex because it's not only certification of the hardware, but the connection to the smartphone connection to the cloud, and the cloud needs to be certified as a medical device. This is a crazy thing to do, but it took us a few years. We got it together, and we even got the FDA approval for this device very recently. You know, the device I'm talking about is the smallest member of our family. It's a Healy. Already the name Healy shows you it's small, it's cozy, it's something very personal, which you like to wear at your body, very close. And the reason why we wear it close to our body, somewhere, normally I put it here. Oops, didn't work. Normally I put it here, somehow close, because if the Healy is close to your body, it goes in resonance with the field of your body, and the resonance with the field of your body is through a quantum sensor, which translates the entropy, which is connected to information, to the information field, to frequencies. So this is something which you find in the back of your Healy. Now I know most people watching now are from the United States. And in the United States, you don't have Healys yet. You will have Healys very soon. The speakers after me will probably tell you when you can order your first Healys. So this is a Healy. It's small, but you only see the tip of the iceberg. I don't know, is this an English word, iceberg or not? The ice mountain. Small part is above the water, but the biggest part is under the water. So you only see the small Healy. The biggest part of the Healy is virtual. It's the medical cloud we are having. It's the hundreds and hundreds of frequencies and 100,000s of frequencies behind, which are supplying the Healy with the with new programs and so on. So this is a small part, and inside the Healy, on the front side, you find the frequency generators, which actually create the physical frequency, which then through electrical current, microcurrent, you can attach to your wrists or to other parts of your body wherever you need them. But on the back side of the Healy, you have a quantum sensor. In my personal Healy, there's a hole inside. I wanted to have it so I can see through it, and I can actually see the quantum sensor. I go very close to the camera. You get an idea there's something. You cannot really see it very well, but there is an electronic part which has an open, no, don't know what's the right name in English, which uses an open quantum process. An open quantum process is a process where the outcome is not determined by the laws of physics, but it happens in a creative quantum event. This is amazing thing about quantum events. They are creative. They're creating new information. And this new information is not coming from the physical parameters of the surrounding, but they are derived from the information field, from the fifth and sixth dimension. So a quantum sensor connects to the fifth and sixth dimension, and we can only indirectly measure the outcome by looking at the entropy of the distributions. And this we translate into frequencies, and this is what is the outcome of the Healy. So in the Healy, when you have a program uploaded on your Healy, you upload it from the smartphone. In the smartphone, you have an app where you choose which program you want to use. For example, in US, the Healy will be, I don't want to talk about this so much. Let's talk about Europe. In Europe, Healy is certified, CE certified as a medical device for pain, but also for many other indications, which I don't want to mention here because it will be different in the US. There we will be focusing on pain as a medical device. But the frequencies can do much more. The Healy shall actually not be a medical device which treats diseases. It's much more important that it gives the right frequencies to balance your bioenergetic field. So we don't make medical claims. We don't have to. The results which people have, the experience which people have with their Healy speak their own language. We don't have to make medical claims. And of course, beyond our FDA approval, which we have, we will not make any medical claims. So the language we are using is that the frequencies from the Healy, they are intended to balance the bioenergetic field, to strengthen the bioenergetic field. And this is most important, especially in our times. If the bioenergetic field is strong, we have a good communication between the different aspects of our physical body, our psyche, our consciousness, the information field, the fields of life behind, and we all can understand what this means. So the language of frequencies, we have a library for. And this library is around 144,000 frequencies from Nununina, which has more than 1,500 categories. And if you download, if you upload a frequency program on your Healy, it's up to 400 frequencies in one program. For example, on Healy, you have a program called Balance. It's meant to balance the bioenergetic field and the bioenergetic field of the organs into your system. So it has 400 frequencies for this purpose. But if you make a session, if you start the Healy, it will only analyze around 3 or 5 or maximum 7 from them, which are important for you on this very moment. So the frequencies will always be different from person to person. After 2 weeks, you do the same program. Again, the frequencies will be different. So it's not possible to have fixed frequencies for fixed indications or situations, but they need to be analyzed always in the moment when you apply them. And this is the very strength of Healy. If you want to put it maybe in one sentence, it's a combination of the frequency technology with 144,000 frequencies, the gold frequencies, together with the quantum sensor, which connects the Healy to the information field. So these two things together are absolutely unique. And then if you connect it to a cloud and make it a global network which exchanges information between therapists and people all over the world, then it's something which can make a real big change on this planet. And this is the vision which we are having since more than 15 years. We would like to see Healy in 100 million families all over this planet. This means 1 billion people will be able to use frequencies, and they will affect the other 7-8 billion people. So I think this is a great vision, and we can of course only achieve it if we integrate the amazing American market. So I'm so excited that we are doing the first steps now. Actually, it's not the first steps. We're working on it since 1 year, that we are doing the final steps. So so that you finally can order your Healys and start to have your own experience.